Welcome, dear listener, to our corner of the night, where shadows meet whispers from beyond. You're about to embark on a journey of mystery, where darkness blends with fear and fascination. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where are you listening from? Drop your city in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button. It helps spread the chills. Now, take a deep breath, relax, and get ready for a sleep deeper than ever before. But beware, the creatures of the night might be closer than you think. Close your eyes, relax, and let fear be your companion this night. I never thought a camping trip with my friends would turn into the most terrifying experience of my life. It was supposed to be a weekend filled with laughter, stories around the campfire, and an escape from our mundane routines. We packed our gear, loaded up the car, and set off for the remote forest that promised seclusion and tranquility. Little did we know that tranquility would soon unravel into a nightmare. The moment we arrived, an eerie silence enveloped us. The trees stood tall and foreboding, their branches twisting like skeletal fingers reaching out to the sky. As we set up our tents, I could feel an unsettling energy in the air, something heavy and oppressive, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. My friends laughed and joked, oblivious to my unease. I tried to shake it off, convincing myself it was just nerves from being in an unfamiliar place. As night fell, we gathered around the campfire, the flames flickering against the darkness that encroached around us. We shared ghost stories, each tale more chilling than the last, but nothing could prepare us for what was to come. The first strange occurrence happened shortly after the sun dipped below the horizon. A rustling in the bushes caught my attention, drawing my gaze away from our circle of light. I squinted into the shadows but saw nothing, just the inky blackness swallowing everything beyond our fire. "Did you hear that?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "What? You scared of a little wind?" Jake teased, tossing another log onto the fire. But deep down, I knew it was more than just wind. It felt as if something was watching us, a presence lurking just beyond our sight. I shrugged it off again and joined in on their banter, though my heart raced with an instinctual fear that I couldn't shake. As we settled in for the night, I crawled into my tent, trying to dismiss the unsettling feeling that clung to me like a shadow. Sleep came reluctantly as the sounds of crickets filled the air, mixing with an undercurrent of rustling leaves. But then came another sound, a low whispering that seemed to slither through the fabric of my tent. "Hello, is someone there?" I called out softly. No response came except for the distant hooting of an owl. I rolled over, trying to convince myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. The next morning brought no relief. Instead, it only intensified my anxiety. As we gathered for breakfast, I noticed carved symbols etched into several nearby trees, unfamiliar markings that sent chills down my spine. "What do you think these mean?" I asked, pointing them out to my friends. "Oh, probably some kids messing around," Sarah shrugged dismissively. But deep down, I felt a gnawing fear growing within me. Those symbols weren't just random scribbles. They felt deliberate and ominous. That day was spent hiking deeper into the woods in search of adventure, but every snap of a twig or rustle in the bushes heightened my paranoia. The further we ventured from our campsite, the more isolated we became. As evening approached again and shadows grew longer, we made our way back to camp. That's when it happened. The unmistakable sensation of being watched returned with a vengeance. A chill ran down my spine as I glanced over my shoulder. There it was again, a fleeting movement between the trees just beyond our campsite. "Guys," I said hesitantly, as we settled around the fire once more, I think something's out there. Jake laughed off my concerns again, but couldn't meet my gaze directly as he spoke. You're just being paranoid. Yet as darkness enveloped us once more, and we huddled close to the fire's warmth, I couldn't shake off that feeling of dread creeping back into my bones. We tried to distract ourselves with stories and laughter, but every so often, one of us would pause mid-sentence, eyes darting nervously toward the tree line. Then came a scream, a bone-chilling sound that pierced through our attempts at comfort like a knife through flesh. It wasn't any of us. It echoed from somewhere deeper in the woods, a cry of pure terror that sent shockwaves through our group. We all froze in place as silence followed, like a thick fog rolling in after a storm. What was that? Sarah whispered breathlessly. I don't know, I replied slowly, heart racing at an unfathomable speed. We should check it out. No way, Jake exclaimed vehemently. But curiosity mixed with fear propelled me forward as I grabbed a flashlight and started towards where I thought I heard it come from. My friends hesitated, but eventually followed closely behind me. With each step into those darkened woods, apprehension tightened its grip around my throat like a vice. The deeper we walked, the more oppressive silence engulfed us. Even nature seemed to hold its breath in anticipation of what lay ahead. Shadows danced erratically beneath our beams of light, as if mocking our intrusion into their realm. Then we stumbled upon something unimaginable. Fresh claw marks gouged deep into a tree trunk alongside more symbols. Symbols identical to those we'd seen earlier, but now accompanied by dark stains that looked eerily like dried blood. We need to get out of here, Jake murmured anxiously now. His bravado evaporated like mist under sunlight. But before we could turn back toward safety, a low growl emanated from somewhere behind us, deep and guttural enough to vibrate through our chests like thunder rolling across an empty sky. Panic surged through me as adrenaline kicked in. We bolted back toward camp without looking back. But whatever stalked us had other plans. As we stumbled back to our campsite, fear clawed at my throat. The deeper we ventured into the woods, the more I felt the oppressive weight of something unseen bearing down on us. We reached our clearing breathless and wide-eyed, but the comfort of our campfire felt like a fragile shield against the darkness that enveloped us. Did you see those marks? Jake panted, his face pale under flickering flames. What do you think did that? I don't know, I replied, trying to mask my own fear. But we need to stick together tonight. The fire crackled as if in agreement, sending sparks spiraling into night sky. We huddled closer, sharing nervous laughter, masking our collective dread. But as night deepened, so did silence around us. Usual sounds of forest, the rustling leaves and distant calls of wildlife had faded into unsettling stillness. Then came whispers again, soft and sibilant, weaving through trees like sinister melody. I glanced toward tree line, half expecting to see something lurking there. But all I found was darkness, a void that seemed to swallow every sound we made. Guys, I said, trying to keep voice steady, I think we should put out fire and get inside our tents. Why? You scared? Sarah teased lightly, though her eyes betrayed her fear. No, Joe, something's out there, I insisted, urgency creeping into tone. Reluctantly, they agreed. We doused fire, retreated into tents, each wrapped in cocoon fabric anxiety. Sounds outside morphed into haunting symphony rustles, cracks punctuated by elusive whispers sending shivers down spine. I lay wide awake, heart pounding chest like war drum. Sleep eluded me entirely instead. Listened intently for any sign movement outside. Minutes turned hours. Tried convincing myself it was all in head, until unexpected sound broke through. The unmistakable crunching leaves just beyond tent. Frozen with fear, strained to hear more, then came series low growls reverberating through ground beneath me. Mind raced terror visions. What could be lurking outside filled thoughts? Was it bear, mountain lion, or something far worse? With shaking hands, fumbled flashlight beam cut through darkness, unzipped tent cautiously. Just outside stood Jake's tent, dark still, like tomb waiting for occupant. "Jake," called softly, but silence answered me. Panic surged within me, pushed aside tent flap, stepped out cold night air whirled, felt distorted under beam flashlight shadows danced erratically its glow. "Guys!" shouted now voice, echoing stillness. Russell caught attention behind me, swung around but saw only trees standing solemnly placed. Where was Sarah Jake? They should have been right here, we were supposed together. "Seriously, this isn't funny," shouted again, feeling small, vulnerable amidst towering trees. That was when noticed it. A figure standing just beyond reach, light heart racing, wildly flicked off, flashlight ducked behind nearby tree cover, breath quickened, peered around. "Trunk get better, look." The figure, tall, gaunt, elongated limbs moved unnaturally. Backdrop moonlight filtering through branches seemed watching. Waiting. Instinct screamed me run, but fear rooted me spot. Then turned head slightly toward grotesque face, twisted grotesque semblance, smile chilled core. Felt if could see right through dread, washed over waves, realization set. This wasn't just some wild animal. It was something far more sinister. Backed away slowly, heart pounding rhythm each step, until collided something solid. Another tree, perhaps another nightmare waiting unfold. In instant vulnerability snapped within me. Survival instinct kicked full force, adrenaline surged through veins like fire, bolted back toward campsite, without looking back. But whatever stalked had other plans. As stumbled back campsite, panic clawed throat deeper. Ventured woods felt oppressive weight. Something unseen bearing down reached clearing, breathless, wide-eyed comfort. Campfire felt fragile shield against darkness enveloping. "Where are you?" calls echoed unanswered oblivion. Reached clearing, skidded stop breath. Coming sharp, gasp, dread pulled stomach lead. Campsite, empty tent stood abandoned under starless skies, while shadows loomed larger life around them. Sarah, Jake, calls echoed unanswered emptiness. Thick suffocating fog rolled over memory's haunting heart. Then came another scream. A piercing shriek shattered stillness glass, breaking underfoot, echoing deeper within woods where had ventured earlier day. Fear gripped me. Panic rose higher ever before. Without thinking, twice dashed toward source, revealed itself. There lay Jake crumpled forest floor beside gnarled old tree, eyes wide open yet unseeing. The very picture of terror carved into his features. "Oh God," I gasped, rushing forward only to feel an icy hand wrap around my ankle. The ground pulled me down like quicksand, dragging me toward despair. Panic surged through me as I struggled against the force, my heart racing as I realized this was no ordinary fall. Something was reaching for me, wanting to pull me into the depths of darkness. With every ounce of strength I had left, I kicked back violently and broke free from its grasp, stumbling backward onto the forest floor. I scrambled to my feet, breathless and terrified, and turned to look at Jake. His lifeless stare sent a chill through my bones. He looked as if he were caught in a nightmare from which he could never wake. The fear that wrapped around me tightened its grip as shadows danced menacingly in the corners of my vision. My instinct screamed at me to flee, but I couldn't leave him there. "Jake, wake up," I shouted, shaking him desperately. But his eyes remained unblinking, locked in a gaze that stared into nothingness. It was then that I heard it. a low growl reverberating through the trees, a sound so primal it sent shivers cascading down my spine. I whipped around to face the source of the sound, heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. The forest had fallen eerily silent, the chirping of crickets and rustling of leaves replaced by an oppressive stillness that felt alive with malevolence. The shadows shifted and coiled around me, their dark tendrils creeping ever closer as if they had a mind of their own. "Sarah," I called out again, voice trembling as fear threatened to consume me. No answer came. Only the echoes of my own voice bounced back at me from the trees. And then I saw it, something moving between the trunks, an unnatural shape gliding through the underbrush with a predatory grace. My blood ran cold as it stepped into the dim light of my flashlight, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness, its features obscured yet twisted into a grotesque semblance of a smile that seemed to mock my suffering. "Run," whispered a voice in my head, a primal instinct urging me to escape this nightmare before it was too late. Without thinking twice, I turned on my heel and sprinted deeper into the woods, branches clawing at my skin like desperate hands trying to hold me back. As I raced through the trees, panic fueled my flight. Every snap of a twig echoed like thunder in my ears. The growling intensified behind me, a relentless pursuit that urged me forward even as fear threatened to swallow me whole. I couldn't look back. I couldn't let whatever hunted us catch up to me. I stumbled over roots and rocks, desperation pushing me beyond exhaustion, until finally, I burst into a small clearing illuminated by moonlight filtering through the canopy above. Panting heavily, I glanced around frantically for any sign of safety, but found none. The oppressive darkness loomed just beyond the edges of light. In that moment of stillness, silence enveloped me once more, thick and suffocating, as if the forest itself held its breath in anticipation. Then came the whispers again, soft yet insistent, drifting through the trees like an eerie lullaby beckoning me closer. "Sarah," I shouted again, voice cracking with fear and desperation. But only silence answered. It was then that I noticed something glinting in the moonlight, a small object half buried in the ground near an old tree stump. Heart racing with both dread and curiosity, I approached cautiously. As I drew closer, recognition washed over me. It was Sarah's bracelet, the one she always wore, adorned with charms representing each of us. I picked it up gingerly. Its presence felt heavy with meaning, a tangible reminder of our friendship shattered by this nightmare. As I held it tightly in my palm, something shifted in the air around me, a ripple of energy coursing through the clearing like an electric current. The shadows deepened as if responding to my grief and determination. They twisted and contorted until shapes began to emerge from within them. Figures cloaked in darkness swirling around me in a macabre dance. Panic surged anew as they drew closer, my heartbeat quickening with each step they took toward me. "Leave her alone," I cried out defiantly, even as terror gripped my throat like iron fingers. But they continued their advance, unfazed by my pleas. Shadows reaching for me with elongated limbs that twisted unnaturally against the pale light shining down from above. In that moment, when all hope seemed lost, a surge of anger ignited within me. I refused to become another victim trapped within this nightmare. Clenching Sarah's bracelet tightly in my fist, I charged forward toward those dark figures, fueled by defiance against all odds. As I collided with them, a strange sensation washed over me. It was not pain, but rather a sense of release. The shadows dissipated into mist, swirling away like smoke caught in a gust of wind, leaving only silence behind. Breathless and bewildered, I stood alone once more amidst those haunting woods. But now there was clarity mingled with resolve. Whatever had haunted us here would no longer hold power over me. Yet just then, a familiar whisper echoed through the trees, a soft voice calling out my name, drawing nearer as if beckoning from beyond. "Help us," it pleaded softly, desperation lacing each syllable, sending chills racing down spine. "Sarah," I called hesitantly, glancing towards direction where sound came from. But all that met my gaze was darkness lingering just beyond reach. A tremor ran through ground beneath feet, urging caution. But instinct propelled forth. This time I would find her. With renewed purpose, I pressed onward deeper still into woods, ignoring every warning bell ringing loudly within mind. The path twisted unexpectedly, leading further away from where we'd camped earlier. But something about it felt strangely familiar, as if guiding toward inevitable conclusion. And then I saw them. Figures emerging from shadows. They were not alone. Other campers who had vanished before us stood together, bound by unseen force. "Help us," they murmured again, their voices layered together, blending harmoniously, yet hauntingly echoing despair. My heart raced wildly. Every instinct told me turn back, but instead I stepped closer, feeling an inexplicable connection between us all. "Who did this?" demanded fiercely searching eyes for answers among familiar faces now distorted by fear. One figure stepped forward. It was Jake, but his expression bore no resemblance to jovial friend who'd laughed beside fire mere days ago. Instead, there lay hollow emptiness etched deeply across features frozen forevermore. "We are trapped," he whispered, voice barely audible, yet heavy with sorrow. The weight of countless souls burdened by fate entwined forever within these cursed woods. Suddenly realization hit hard like lightning striking earth. We were all connected now, not just by bonds forged friendship, but by shared trauma binding us together within Twilight Realm, where nightmares danced freely without restraint. "No more," breathed defiantly, tightening grip on Sarah's bracelet, clinging tightly, hoping against hope not just for myself, but for everyone lost here, with newfound resolve surging through veins. I raised bracelet high above head, summoning energy thrumming beneath surface, until light erupted, bursting forth, illuminating darkened woods, casting away shadows lurking nearby. Light enveloped us all, flooding, clearing until darkness receded, chased away, leaving behind warmth, radiating hope, filling hearts once more. Together, we stood united against whatever darkness threatened to devour our souls. As dawn broke over horizons, spilling golden rays across forest floor, we found ourselves standing hand in hand, surrounded by remnant spirits lost long ago. Free at last, breaking chains binding us here forevermore. But even now, that haunting feeling lingered still, leaving question unanswered. What truly dwelled within those woods? What horrors waited patiently for next unsuspecting travelers who dared trespass upon sacred ground? Though we escaped physical realm forever changed, we knew deep down echoes would forever remain etched indelibly upon hearts, reminding us never forget what lay hidden beneath surface. For sometimes true horror doesn't lie within monsters lurking outside, but rather within shadows cast upon our very souls. As we stood in that clearing, the first rays of dawnlight pierced through the treetops, casting golden beams across the forest floor. The air felt charged with a strange energy, an otherworldly hum vibrating through the trees. I could still feel the pulse of the bracelet in my hand, a lingering connection to Sarah and the others who had been lost here. It was as if their spirits were intertwined with mine, guiding me forward into an uncertain future. Around us, the forest began to shift. The oppressive darkness that had cloaked our surroundings was slowly lifted, revealing the true beauty of this place. The vibrant greens of moss-covered stones, the delicate wildflowers peeking through cracks in the earth, and the towering trees that now stood as guardians rather than jailers. For a moment, it felt like we were stepping out of a nightmare into a dream, but I knew better than to let my guard down. "Do you think they're really gone?" Jake asked softly, breaking the fragile silence that surrounded us. His voice was barely above a whisper, laden with sorrow for what we had endured and lost. "I don't know," I admitted, glancing around at the faces of our friends, Sarah's bright eyes now shadowed by fear, and the others who had once been so full of life but now seemed haunted by memories they couldn't escape. "But we can't stay here. We need to leave this place." With resolve firming in my chest, I turned toward the path leading back to where we had parked our car. It felt unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting, as though it was beckoning us home. Each step we took away from that clearing felt like shedding layers of fear and sorrow. Hope began to bloom in my heart like wildflowers breaking through concrete. But as we ventured deeper into the woods toward familiar ground, the whispers returned. They fluttered around us like errant leaves caught in a gust of wind, soft at first but growing louder until it became an insistent cacophony that drowned out everything else. "Help us," they pleaded again. Voices layered over one another, blending harmoniously yet hauntingly echoing despair. I stopped dead in my tracks, gripping Sarah's bracelet tightly as dread washed over me anew. "What do you want?" I shouted into the void surrounding us, frustration boiling over as panic threatened to consume me once more. The shadows shifted ominously around us. Tendrils reached out from beneath trees, like fingers grasping for something just beyond their reach. I could feel their presence pressing against my skin, a suffocating weight that begged for attention. It was an overwhelming reminder of everything we had faced, the loss, terror, and pain etched forever within these woods. "We can't help you," Sarah cried out suddenly, a spark of defiance igniting within her, despite fear still flickering behind her eyes. And then, silence fell upon us like a heavy blanket smothering all sound. It was palpable and thick, as if even nature held its breath, waiting for what would come next. In that moment of suffocating quietude, a vision surged through my mind unbidden. Memories danced before me, flashes of laughter around campfires under starlit skies, echoes of friendship forged through trials, and ultimately, the grief birthed from loss that now bound us together inexplicably. "Listen," I said urgently, turning toward our friends, each face reflecting both terror and determination, as realization dawned upon them too. We were not just victims anymore. We were survivors united by shared struggle, transcending boundaries set forth by darkness. Maybe they don't want to hurt us," I continued softly, trying to grasp at straws while fighting against rising tide of despair threatening sweep us away once more. "Maybe they just want to be remembered." A flicker of understanding crossed Jake's features. He stepped forward hesitantly, but resolutely, toward those shadows lingering just beyond reach. "We will remember you," he called out boldly, his voice steady, now resonating with conviction. "We won't forget what happened here." As if responding to his words, the whispers grew softer, more melodic, like a lullaby weaving through air surrounding us. The shadows coalesced into shapes blurring together, forming familiar figures who once roamed these woods, but now lingered eternally trapped between realms. "We are not alone," whispered one voice. a gentle tone caressing my ears even amid chaos swirling around us. With each passing second, the figures shifted closer until finally, they materialized clearly before our eyes. Faces emerged from darkness, those who had vanished long before us, smiles lighting up expressions previously marred by despair. "It is time," spoke another figure, stepping forward, their eyes shining with wisdom gained through years spent wandering these haunted woods. "What do you mean?" I asked breathlessly, taking a step closer despite every instinct warning caution. "Time for release," echoed collective voices filled with warmth radiating hope. "You have shown kindness where others showed fear. You have brought light back into darkness." Suddenly, I understood. We were not merely witnessing past traumas. We were partaking in healing ritual forged through bonds formed amidst suffering. "Let go," came whispers, urging gently, echoing sentiment weaving through air surrounding us, urging acceptance amid uncertainty. And then it happened. A wave surged forth, enveloping all around, sweeping over everyone present, pulling us towards center, clearing where shadows began dissipate, leaving behind only memories, sweet yet bittersweet reminders etched deep within hearts forevermore. As realization struck deep, I felt relief wash over me, a sense closure lingering on edge of consciousness, like soft breeze brushing against skin, reminding me never forget those lost along the way. With renewed strength, I turned toward companions standing side by side, ready to face whatever lay ahead, together knowing we would carry pieces each other within ourselves, eternally binding our souls forevermore. As dawn broke higher, spilling sunlight across landscape, we stepped forward hand in hand, united against whatever fate awaited beyond those cursed woods, knowing no matter where life led next, we would always be connected by threads spun from love friendship, forged against odds, unimaginable. For true horror lies not within darkened corners lurking unseen, but instead within bonds created between souls willing fight together against all odds. Even when faced with greatest fears hidden beneath surface, waiting patiently for chance rise again. And so we walked away from those haunted woods, no longer just survivors, but warriors united against darkness, forging paths anew, filled with light illuminating every shadow cast long ago. Each step carried echoes, memories never forgotten, reminding us journey together would continue onward, traversing realms uncharted, while cherishing every moment shared along the way. As we emerged into sunlight beyond trees, I glanced back one last time, catching sight glimmers past dancing among branches, embracing ephemeral magic, fading slowly into memory, yet never truly disappearing. For every story told carries weight deeper than mere words. It holds essence lives intertwined forever, imprinting history upon hearts willing listen closely. And thus we carried forth into a world beyond those darkened woods, armed with courage, forged friendships, strong enough to withstand even most harrowing trials life could throw upon us. Together, as one, we would conquer whatever lay ahead, crafting tales worthy remembrance, celebrating resilience born from shadows cast long ago. As we stepped into the embrace of daylight, a newfound sense of purpose filled our hearts, an unbreakable bond forged in the crucible of fear and survival. The shadows of that haunted forest receded behind us, but their lessons remained etched within our souls, a constant reminder of the strength we found in unity and resilience. Together, we would carry forth not just the memories of those we had lost, but also the promise to honor their stories by living fully and bravely. No longer merely survivors, we had transformed into warriors of light, ready to face whatever darkness lay ahead, armed with the knowledge that together we could conquer even the most harrowing trials life could throw our way. And as we walked forward into the world, we knew that every step was not just a move away from the past, but a stride towards a future filled with hope, love, and unyielding courage.